What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Tide Talk. We're recording this on Thursday, May 8th to discuss RIFC's 2-1 U.S. Open Cup loss to the New England Revolution. Just a reminder, each episode of Tide Talk is available on YouTube, and if you're watching now, please take a second to subscribe to our channel. We are 15 subscribers away from 300, so help us get there. Hit that subscribe button and also take a second to click that like button on this video. You can also find us on your favorite podcast applications like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and if you listen on one of those, we'd really appreciate it if you leave us a 5-star rating and a short review, as it helps more people find our podcast. One last plug: if you're not already, go check out our RIFC Club Collector app and enter the code TIDETALK25, all lowercase, all one word, to get an exclusive pack added to your collection today. So cozy up, crack a bear. Let's dive into this one. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend Ryan. Ryan, how's it going, man?
It's good. I mean, just honestly looking for 3 times in 1 week at Tidewater coming up soon.
It is a busy week. I'm sure the players are tired, but the content creators are feeling it too. We're feeling the burn, the grind. So thank you to everyone who follows us on the socials, who tunes into these, joins us in the chat, listens on the podcast, everything you do to help us, kind of spread our word and interact with us just makes it better. So we do it for you guys. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us. Ryan, we'll start with the tailgate. We'll start with, the before the game action and all that. I got there a little after 5, and the lot was already packed, already crowded. It seemed like it was much more condensed than spread out like it was for the home opener in the M7 lot. I know some of that had to do with the Revs supporters kind of being in that other half of the M7 lot, if you will. But a much more condensed tailgate. People were there. There was a food truck going with sausage sandwiches. That was great. But a really cool atmosphere, and it started early for this one that the people in the Twitter trolls are kind of dubbing El Toxico.
Yeah, I do like El Toxico, just because of how toxic Twitter is. But no, I think that you nailed it with like how much more condensed the tailgate was. I really like that. I think that was a big learning from Saturday that I think we did a much better job with, and it just felt like it was a lot easier to see people. People were closer together, and which is always fun. That's the whole point of it, right? Is to go talk to everybody, like say hi, cheers everybody, and just be around your friends. So yeah, great tailgate. People started early, and I think it really made the atmosphere fun.
No, absolutely. We had FQB say, "Look at that sick shirt." Big shout out to Chris from Robin Front and the German Club. It's one of their designs. If you have not met up with them, find him at a tailgate. He's got some awesome stickers, some shirts, some pins, patches, all good stuff. So make sure you go check all of that out. But a really cool tailgate. We had to cross the line and get into the that side of M7 to get this cool stuff. Ryan showed you his pins, and now he's all out of focus, so he's going to be moving back and forth for the next 20 minutes or so.
Terrible.
But the march in, there you go. The march in was pretty packed again. Not as packed as Saturday, but a good amount of people joined it. I know Saturday the group was very intentional on kind of stopping at different places to get it back together. This was kind of more of a straight shot. I'd like to see a little bit more stops, kind of bring the group back together, get La Banda up there near the front, and really get the juices flowing for the march. But I think it's a really cool tradition that started at the home opener, and it'll only get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, I thought the funniest part of the march was that Irvin entrusted probably the 3 worst people to trust with being the smoke guys, me, Timmy, and Andrew. 3 guys who just shouldn't have no hooligan in our body at all. But we tried our best. There's a lot of how do you light this thing going on between the 3 of us, but we figured it out. But yeah, there's some
You can say
conversation
Timmy.
on.
You can throw him under the bus for that.
Oh, me and Andrew were right there with him. I can't even front, but there is some conversation going on how we can really improve the march. And I would say if you're a Defiance member, please don't be afraid to share your ideas. The board is awesome in terms of how they are really receptive to this stuff. If you have feedback or ideas, so this group's only going to be as good as we all make it as a collective. So make sure you share those ideas. Oh, well,
Jason wants to know if you're the one that tried to kill us all.
No.
I know.
On the march.
I know.
On the march.
I know we'll get to his RIFC in 3 a little bit later on in this one, but there was definitely a some kind of a smoke mishap. I also know Timmy fried his Tide Talk anorak coat with all of the flare burns and smoke burns from it. So a good way to keep us in business, I guess.
Yeah, I came away unscathed, luckily. But no, Jason, I was up in 205. I can't. I have an alibi. I was out of there.
Good, good. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's look at the match itself. It was probably the 11 we would expect for RIFC. Jackson Lee got the start in net. Sanchez, Nodarse, Stoneman, Rio Hope Gund, Amos Shapiro Thompson, Clay Holstad, Noah Fusan, Maxi Rodriguez, Jorge Quizera, and Chico getting his first start, getting back after that substituted parents. Pretty much what you expected to see, Ryan?
Yeah, I think the only big questions really going into it was, would Chico be healthy to actually make the start? We did see him come in on Saturday with a sub appearance, and then who was going to start in goal? I know, we even talked to Jackson on Saturday, and he wasn't even sure if he was playing this Wednesday, but good to see that he got the start. We're obviously big Jackson fans here. Not that we're not Koke fans as well, but great to be able to play two great keepers. In these, I love all these people coming with my alibi. Thank you all. You're all great, great people, great accomplices in this right now.
There you go. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I did like Amos getting the start again, based on how well he played on Saturday. I think that very easily could have been Harivao, especially being a former Revolution product himself. So seeing him starting, I think I could have kind of read that, but I think the rest of the lineup with the injuries kind of picks itself right now. But pretty stock for what we would have expected to
Yeah, and
start this one.
I think it really goes. And Kano, I think, has been really consistent about this throughout his tenure as manager here. But he does reward good performances, and I think Amos getting that start, I think, is the exact kind of example you want to set for your team. Because I mean, that guy we talked about it last podcast just went out there and played his heart out at the home opener. So him getting another start here, as long as he was fit to play, I think was a no brainer.
Absolutely. This one started out pretty interestingly. There was a pretty hard fall right in the center circle by a Revolution player, and then unfortunately we talk about officiating a lot on this one, and the card came out quick for Frank, very very quick, and it just kind of, we saw a lot of Rhode Island FC falls. We saw a lot of heavy tackles, some push-offs. This was a very aerially played game. There were a lot of long balls. There were a lot of challenge headers. There was a lot of pushing. Maxi hit the deck a lot, and he is an absolute statesman of the game, and he will sell everything, and he will talk to the ref on after every play. And the announcers said it as well. They're like, Maxi's just kind of gonna relax and not talk to him. And I was like, they don't know his game. Like that is what he does. And but I thought the ref had a much better second half than first half. I thought that it got a little lopsided early on, and it seemed like every time we touched a New England Revolution player, it was a foul. And then we were hitting the deck on our limited, touches in that early going, so we could really get that foothold in the match. And the whistle wasn't as reciprocal for us.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm going to be very honest. I watched probably the first 15 to 20 minutes on my phone in the California taco shop line. Business decision was made there. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. What was that?
You got to eat.
Yeah, had they put a base layer in there, the tailgate, I couldn't get any of the delicious sausage, so I had to make sure I got something in my body, and that's why I'm here today, feeling fine. So, but at the same time, I totally agree. I mean, even just from the crowd reaction, which was funny when I'm watching it on my phone and I'm getting like a preview of what's about to happen, you could tell that people were getting a little frustrated with the performance of the ref, especially at the start. I mean, it seemed like Revs came out to almost make a statement of like, almost trying to like little brother us, like we're going to come in and like kick your ass a little bit. And I'm happy that we stood up to that, because I think of anything, it's almost like the wrong strategy for this Rhode Island FC team. We're happy to go out there and play that kind of in the mud game of like, really chippy, really hard fought. So yeah, we'll see.
I think it was really interesting. Very early on in the broadcast, the commentators were saying how, New England would really use their athleticism, their vast, and not majority, their like overwhelming athleticism to beat this RIFC team. And then after the goal, which we'll get to in a little bit, it was very much about how Rhode Island was running New England ragged. And I think, the fight that we put on, the show that we put on, was nothing more than impressive. Obviously, as a fan fan, as a supporter, you want to see your team win. But I view this one very much as a good lesson going forward, that we can compete with them anytime they come here, anytime we go there, we get on the pitch with them. Is that sense of local pride, that sense of the derby, the stadiums being 21 miles apart. Is really something that the players fed off the energy of the crowd. And you mentioned it in the opening, like, big shout out to Defiance. They really brought it all night long. The smokes, the drums, it was a very loud one. So the support behind this team is pretty incredible. And I can't say the same about Big Brother, as people are calling them, from up the road. Their supporters flag was waving. They scored the goal. It was waving. We equalized. Flag went down, and then it did not come back up until they took that lead in that fateful moment late on. So RAFC fans did their thing throughout the match in this one, and I don't think the same can be said for the Revs fans. I know you're a little bit closer to them, but looking up and seeing it from field level, it was very much, most of them, as Jason says in the chat, sitting on their ass most of the game.
I had absolutely no idea they were to my left the entire time. Like, literally no idea. I think until the very end of the game, where I think they popped a smoke, and I was like, oh fuck, that's where they were the whole time. But I think, to your point on the athleticism, we talked about this a lot, especially in the lead up to the Charleston game, where last season it really felt like we just were so superior athletically to Charleston, and that's what really gave us the advantage in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think it's a credit to the way Kano's built this team. This is a team of very, very good athletes and also good soccer players too. But someone like a Clay is going to probably be the best athlete on the pitch at most levels, at any level in this country. Even Amos, really, really good athlete. He's small, but I know you got a fun little nickname cooked up for Amos, but he gets around and is physical and will have no problem getting into it. And a lot of these guys did play. Rio was in the MLS just a couple years ago. Quazera was drafted in the MLS. A lot of these guys have already been there, so it's not surprising that we really held our own in that regard.
Right on. I will say, I will give a couple Revs fans credit that I've seen on Twitter.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
I won't mention names because you don't want to glaze anyone too big on this one. But there were a few who said, after watching last night's match, it really made me realize that RIFC has quite a few players that could make MLS rosters. I saw Quazera's name come up, and I don't think Quazera had a good game by any stretch of the means, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. They said Holstad, Noah Fuson. They didn't say Maxi, which I thought was incredible, because Maxi loves to score against MLS teams, and I just think the way he plays would translate absolutely perfectly. His leadership qualities, getting at the ref, and very excited to see him open up the bank, if you will. And we'll talk about that one a little bit more at length later on. But there were some Revs fans that were active on Twitter saying how they were impressed with RAFC's play, along with the stadium, the atmosphere, and kind of everything that made the night what it was.
Oh, I'm glad El Toxico was a little less toxic after the game.
That's it.
Again, El Toxico wasn't what was on the pitch. El Toxico is what happens on Twitter.
For sure. Mostly. Sarah mentioned a lot of combined fans, Revs kit, RIFC scarf, other way around. I think at this point in the game, you really need to pick a side. If you're going to a match with this, with two scarves on, if you're going to a match with a jersey of one team, a scarf of another, this isn't a 50-50 scarf friendly. This is going to be, obviously it's not going to be a league rivalry. It's not going to be one of those big derbies that we see every year, but it's going to be a cup rivalry that we're going to see, going on in the future. And I think it's going to continue to develop. I think the strong performance by this RAFC squad in game one, is something that we can only really build upon. And I do think that it's time where a lot of people, might have been Revs fans and kind of switched to RAFC once the Rhode Islanders that once RFC came to got local and decided to play with. But I don't think this is one where, you support a team in America and a team, abroad. If you're supporting one of these clubs, it can't be both anymore. Now that they've played each other, it's time to pick a side.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have that as strong of an opinion on that. I do think if you're going to the game, you can't go half and half. I think that's outrageous. That's outrageous. But I do feel like there is room for you to be technically a fan of both. But I do think if you are an out-and-out supporter, I think you do have to pick at this point, because you can't. It's very hard to go to both games on a Saturday, for instance. So you are making whether consciously or subconsciously, a decision every time. And I do
Sure.
think go all in, come down to Rhode Island. It's the better atmosphere. It's a better experience. It's more fun. It's a better team. Just come and do it.
Jason kind of agrees with your point there. You can still be a fan of both teams, but when you go out to the games, you have to pick a side. If you're a season ticket holder for RIFC and you're showing up in any kind of Revs merch for RIFC versus Revs match, I think that's a problem. I think that is where the line needs to be drawn in the sand. I'm sorry. I know there were quite a few fans who took that route, took that option, and we're done with that now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting called Switzerland in the chat. I get it, but like, yes, in those instances, like, yes, you do have to pick. I'm very clear on that. Yeah, Kerwin knows ball. Here we go. But yeah, I do think if you are either a season ticket holder or if they are playing each other, you do have to pick. I very much agree. There should be 50-50. Again, we know some people who did it personally, don't love it at all. But I just saying I understand if you're someone who's a casual fan of both, but if you are a true fan of one of them, you do have to kind of pick at this point.
I totally disagree with you. Now that the first game has been played, pick a side, stay with it. Especially if you're a season ticket holder, don't show up in the other team's stuff. That's Bush League, minor league.
So clear. If you have the RIFC app on your phone, you need to pick. You're picking RIFC. You can't be doing that. You just totally agree with that point. I'm just saying someone who's going to buy the sporadic ticket at either I get, who's just like a soccer fan. But if you are a season ticket for FC, you should never be wearing Revs gear inside Centerville Bank Stadium.
Okay, now we can kind of reach some kind of mutual agreement there, and we'll move on a little bit. What'd you make of the early stages of the game in this one, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, from the
as you watched on your phone at California Taco.
To be clear, California Taco was delicious. I think that is the move.
It slaps.
In the stadium. It absolutely slaps. It was nice. I hit the Guild beer cart right at the corner, and then down to the California Taco shop, so I could drink that while I was in line. I think that's might be the move going forward. But yeah, overall, I thought at the beginning of the game, I think it was it was a good test. You could see that the teams are kind of trying to figure each other out. It was a little physical. There might have been a little edginess to it. But I think it was a clear testament to Rhode Island FC and the talent out there that they didn't look overmatched at all. And I do think we carried a lot of the game up until that point. So I thought it was a really good start for Rhode Island and kind of exactly what Kano would have asked for outside of getting the actual goal. But I thought we were definitely the better team for most of the first half.
Absolutely. Definitely leading up to the 38th minute when New England scored their first goal. We had quite a few chances. We had Chico making some good runs. I see a lot. We've had a lot of discussions about Chico in our Tide Talk chat, and people are less than enthused with, him and his performances. First start of the year, kind of getting in there, shaking off the rust a little bit, made some good runs, gut between their center backs, just couldn't find the back of the net. And, I think when he gets his touch, it will come. He got into some good spots. Like I said, he's a runner. It looked like a very different game with him. We see him, kind of being that poacher and getting those poachers goals, but the ball's being played into him and him finding those seams between the center backs to create shots. If he can fine tune that a little bit and start burying some of these, I think he'll be quite an asset running off players like JJ when he gets back to fitness, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I know a lot of people were kind of down on Chico and not being able to find the back of the net in this one. I'm not one of them. I think that was a good 60 minutes that he put in, and I think he got in some dangerous spots, just missed the goal like, we missed it on Saturday.
Interesting. I disagree. You make a lot of good points about, him making good runs. The problem is like he is paid to score the goals. Like that is the point of him. And
Fair.
in like the benefit of Chico actually like isn't even the run really. It's his like finishing was what was supposed to be the thing for him. I mean, right. You signed the reigning Golden Boot winner last year. You're expecting him to put the ball in the back of the net. And I did find that he got himself in good positions and the finishing was just like really rough. More than happy to give him the benefit of the doubt that, his first game, truly game back from injury. He did make that sub appearance,
Sure.
But, I'm not ready to, end the Chico experiment by any means. But at the same time, I do think we're not seeing a level like the level of finishing that he either is hopefully capable of or like that we are paying him for. So that's what just concerns me is that he most likely is one of the highest paid players on this roster. And I just don't know that we're getting the output at the end of the day you'd expect from that level of payment.
Fair enough. We were just about 7 plus stoppage time
Like, I
minutes
guess,
away.
sorry, let me
God.
circle back to this. Does Chico, if you were the opposing team's defense, would you game plan around stopping Chico?
No, if we had a fully healthy JJ Williams, that's who I'm game
But even
planning
last
on.
night on the pitch, like would you would he have been your focal point as like the defense?
I would have my game plan would have centered around Maxi and Clay and everything coming out of those two and being generated out of those two. But knowing that Clay and Maxi both like to light it up from far away, and Chico's a poacher, I do think you have to have him in there somewhere. He's not the focal point of your game point.
I mean,
Game
quite
plan, to
frankly,
your point.
I'd be more worried about Maxi. I'd be worried about both wingers more about stopping them out there. I'd probably be more worried about Clay offensively. I mean, if we're at like the fifth person, like 50% of the team that you're out in the outfield pitch that you are more worried about, that scares me because again, he's supposed to be kind of one of the talisman, especially of the attack. And we're talking about, 4 or 5 other guys that we are more afraid of. And a couple of them are hurt that like couldn't even be out there last night. So that's where I get really worried and frustrated with Chico. I still hope that we can make it work, but again, and also benefit of the doubt that he is coming back from injury. But at the same time, I do think we have a pretty big sample size at this point of I don't know of him that he is like, the true offensive spark that we had hoped. But again, I don't want this to be a Chico pylon. Let's give him some time. Let's see how he, especially with him leading the line. We haven't really seen him do this in a long time
Since the early
JJ
days.
got back. Yeah, so more to come.
I will say I don't think he is the RIFC talisman. I think JJ was signed before him, and I think the team was kind of built around JJ. And hopefully the injury concerns don't keep to pile up with JJ. Hopefully we get him healthy. But hell of a second option to have as a former Golden Boot winner in the league.
Yes, but also I didn't know we were going to go this big on this, but at the same time, it's like. Again, this is with the assumption, pure assumption that he's one of the highest paid players on the team. You'd have to think that there was some kind of bidding war to get the, Golden Boot winner in when we signed him. And what could those resources have been elsewhere is where I would say that. And also did that kind of throw off our recruitment in other areas because we then, needed to play a formation we might not have been anticipating and things like that. So that's where I get concerned with him and not performing at the level that you'd hope for, because it's not even just like a pure performance thing. It's also a roster building thing. And it's a larger like philosophical thing around team structure and formation. And like, what else could you have done? Could you have, signed 2 players who are more up and coming with that salary? Again, I don't know the numbers, so I can't even comment on that part, but pure assumption that he is one of the higher paid players on the team. And I don't know that we're getting the output consistently from him.
Okay, fair enough. We'll put a pin in that point. We'll switch gears a little bit as we were just about.
Wow, I didn't realize you were going to go hard on the half and half scars. I was going to go hard on Chico. This is just like a lot of tension for an episode.
Let it go. Yeah. We were about 7 minutes plus stoppage time away from halftime when Tomas Chankale broke the seal, scored the first ever goal at Centerville Bank Stadium. So let's take a look at that and kind of break it down as far as what happened on this.
In Pawtucket, Rhode Island since 1942. And of course, the first ever final of, at the time, the National Challenge Cup, now Open Cup, was played in Pawtucket as Rhode Island have a chance here. New England score! Off the ricochet! It is the aforementioned Tomas Chankale who scores the first ever goal at Centerville Bank Stadium. Rhode Island had a chance to clear it. The Revs take full advantage, and the side from Major League Soccer land the first blow in this round of 32 Open Cup tie.
Well, that'll help you get back to form when the opposing team turns it over. They get sloppy at the edge of the area, unable to clear the ball out of trouble, and then Chankale with a left foot. That was an assured delay.
So starts off with kind of a litany of errors there as Grant Stoneman's very high off his line, doesn't really come in on a 50-50 ball. Rio slides in and kind of misses out on it. And then obviously the deflection off a sliding Frank. Just kind of errors that we've seen from this back line, although be it this back line hasn't really played too much together. Not really our first choice back line when all are healthy and eligible to play. But what were your thoughts on this one and kind of where did it really go wrong?
It's hard. It's like it's a classic goal that we give up. Where it's just like so many things went wrong in that sequence that it's like almost hard to pinpoint any specific thing. I mean, you see Snowman when the clip starts when the midfielder has the ball, like he is clearly like in between two minds of like, do I chase this? I think it's the forward is like tucking into midfield. Like, do I run with him? Do I not? Do I pick him up? And he kind of got caught in no man's land while making that decision. Rio just gets like an unfortunate bounce off his slide tackle. Like he makes the play, but it just takes like a weird deflection right to the attacker. I think Frank should get tighter and do better on that one. I do think he's talented enough to stay with the guy and run with him. And then, I mean, Jackson looked really disappointed at the end. Maybe he thought he could have done better. He very, very last person to blame on this one. But it's just a classic, like, there's no one single person who made an error, but like, I don't think any of those four players would have been like, that was my best version of me on that. So it's hard to pinpoint exactly, but I think, Snowman to start, like not getting either tight to the offensive player or, asking one of the midfielders to come back to take him. I think that's where the whole thing really kicked off from there, because that set everything in motion. So hopefully, you just hope the communication's better. You hope that Snowman can stay tighter. And then again, a couple weird bounces and it goes in, this was a game of weird bounces, unfortunately. So
I agree with you as far as I think Jackson's the least at fault on this one. Obviously, anytime a goal goes through, the keeper wants to do better on it and, make sure of it. I do think it starts with Stoneman and, he's, like you said, kind of caught in that no man's land. And then Rio's challenge had to be so precise and perfect, just kind of being on the edge of the area there that, if he gets it wrong in a league without VAR, a cup competition without VAR, who knows what happens. The referee was already having a mare going into it. And then I think it's a common issue with Frank that Frank's always kind of caught between positions as far as closing out when he's defending. I did think this back line had a very good game. I think this was their worst moment of the game collectively, but I think there were a lot of very good individual performances with this back line. So I don't want to really spend too much time spending the negative on them, as I thought they played very well throughout this one. But, I think that it's a common theme that we see, particularly with Frank, and just having poor positioning on a lot of these goals. And, maybe now some of it might be due to kind of that rotation of who we're playing at center back. But I think for him to take the next step, and, he was a name that we heard could be off to MLS at the end of last season, and to keep making these errors and positioning errors and never really closing down on the ball or closing down on the attacking players is going to hinder his growth as a player. So you hope he can continue to learn, continue to grow. But we do see a lot of those mistakes. I know Matt Hands is probably going to bat for him in the chat right now. But, he's got to get better at this. He's got to get better at the closeouts. He's got to close people down, and he's got to help his team clear the ball out of the box.
Yeah, I think what kills me with Frank, and I've said this on the show before, and I will say it forever, like he has all the talent to be like a very special defender who probably should be playing at a higher level, but it's just, there's just like a little something that like
little lapse here and there.
It's like, again, it's just like the danger button just like doesn't go off in his head, where it's like, do everything in your power right now because like the world is ending, doesn't go off. So, I know I see Matt Hands coming in to defend this guy in the chat. I mean, I thought we probably even shouldn't be talking about this that much, because I agree with Matt.
They played well. They did play well.
I thought besides that moment, Frank played really well. I thought someone was fine. I thought, we'll talk about Rio and Aldier sooner in the pod. I totally hear you. But again, on that play in isolation, I do think Frank could have definitely been better there.
Absolutely. So we head into the half down 1-0, and I think the feeling was kind of the same as, the Revs really only had that sustained possession leading up to that goal. And other than that, we were hitting on the counter exactly like we were wanted to. We were getting our foot on the ball, and did kind of everything we needed to do to really be in this one. And the stats prove it. 54% possession for RIFC to 46 for the Revs. We outshot them 8-7, with the only big caveat, one shot on target for RIFC. So a tough pill to swallow there. The Revs had 3. They had the one big chance. We completed 210 passes at 87% to their 162 at 81. They committed 5 fouls to just our 6. There was some leveling off at the end there, but the fouls were much more lopsided early. And we had 1 corner to their 2. Hopefully we can get some Chick-fil-A coming up pretty soon. But overall, thoughts on the first half with us kind of dominating the stats, being rated it on everything else statistically?
Yeah, I mean, we were really just missing that kind of like final third play, really. Like you said, we had plenty of shots, just like only 1 on target, no big chances. But the game was really played in their half. We just really couldn't get anything going in that final third. But I think overall, if you're at halftime and you're Kano, you're probably pretty happy with that overall. Like we dominated play for the most part. We were the better team going into it, and I think we showed that like we deserve to be in the game.
Sure.
And it's something to build on. Obviously you don't want to go down, especially with a goal that close to halftime. But at the same time, it's one of their players who plays pretty often, Shankale. So again, if you're going to give up a goal to anybody, you're probably not okay with it, but you're probably less annoyed by it. So at the end of the day, there was plenty to build on and plenty to work with going into that second half.
No, right on. I think that it showed that we were in the game. It showed that one moment could change the game, and we did see that. But it also showed that we had to show some fight and be willing to suffer, as Kano says, to get in this one. And we absolutely were, and we are absolutely able to get back in it. I think coming out of halftime, we looked even much more the better team. I don't know if New England took their foot off the gas a little bit, and that's what kind of let us back in, or it was just how well we played early on in the second half. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do know Kano said in his post game that he gave the team kind of the pep talk before the game of like, don't let them be the first to score in your stadium. And I'm sure he said something way more heinous at halftime about that, about someone else coming in your place and scoring the first goal in team history. Are you going to let that be let them get the first win as well? So I'm sure he really fired up the troops, and we saw a really motivated team coming out of the half. And if there was a player who, I think shows that leadership quality, shows that, intensity to get that first goal in Centerville Bank Stadium history, it was Maxi Rodriguez. So
it was Maxi Rodriguez, and it came just 5 minutes into the second half. So let's take a look at that.
This time, and on the far side, Noah Fuson drives forward and finds Maxi Rodriguez! Rhode Island opened their account at Centerville Bank Stadium with a marvelous finish from Maxi Rodriguez. Rhode Island have equalized against the Revs in the Open Cup.
So I love initially seeing how excited Maxi was. You can tell he understood the moment. He understood how big it was. He's an awesome personality, kind of having talked with him after a couple of games, talking with him online. He's just an incredible personality. I love all the bits about, him having the Northern Guard Charmin post as his lock screen. He's a very cerebral player and a very smart player, and just an absolutely incredible finish there, and then really soaked up the moment and really celebrated with his team, the fans, and made the most of it. What was a historic moment for this club at our new stadium.
Yeah, it's going to shock no one that I do want to take one step back and just call out the absolute dime that Noah played for him. I thought that was a great cutback. The minute he pulled his leg back, I did think he was going to cross it, but for him to cut it back to Maxi on that run, I thought was really good. And you could see they're starting to be the chemistry built. We talked about it last show of like the team's starting to trust Maxi in like tighter spots now. I think they're starting to understand how to play with him. So awesome find by Noah to pick him out. The man was the golden assist, whatever the hell they're calling it, golden playmaker last year for a reason. And nice to see him get that on his tally, because we do want to start seeing Noah get the best out of him. But also I thought it was interesting that we did switch Noah and Quizera. I think it was before halftime, but originally we've been playing Noah on the left with Quizera on the right. Kind of did swap them. And I do think that goal is really played out of that Noah can cross it in with his right, which was good. But honestly, great finish by Maxi. I mean, that's not easy at all. Plays
very
clinical. And yeah, just a guy that you could tell just leaves his heart. Wears his heart in his sleeve, leaves it all on the pitch every single game. And, it's going to mean a lot to him to be the first player to score at this stadium. And really, really proud of him.
FQB says Noah had to redeem his performance on the night. I think there's been a lot of Noah slighting of late. He hasn't really lived up to that golden playmaker type performance of last season, as we've seen. But I thought Noah Noah showed up really well last night. He was tracked back defensively. He put in that assist. I thought Noah had a very, very good game. It looked much more like the Noah of last season. Played a lot more free, kind of, all over the place, had a very strong heat map. And like I said, I think it was more of the Noah of last season. And if that continues and he's able to kind of wreak havoc going forward and backwards, because he's so versatile, it'll only help out players like Maxi, Clay, Chico, JJ, Quizera, who's ever up top.
Yeah, I mean, we all, I fought the Noah Wars last year. I'm going to fight him again this year. I really think this wing position gets the best out of him. He did. You're nailing it, and a little foreshadowing for later in the show. Like the Noah defensive side was on display last night, but I think offensively, playing him in this wing role, I really think will get the best out of him, especially when someone like a JJ is back. I really can't wait to see this front three, but with JJ at a later point in the season. But yeah, excited. I mean, hey, sometimes you just need to see one go in, as they say in basketball, and hopefully for Noah, getting this assist, getting this on the board, getting a little bit of confidence built will, bring him through.
As you compare other sports there, I did notice that the wave tried to get started the other night and quickly died out. So I was very happy to see that, as I mentioned last time on this one.
Listen, I stand by. We have to be neutral on the wave as literal Tide Talk. So, we'll see.
Fair. You mentioned Quizera and Noah switching, and I think that was a huge impact. Had a huge impact on the second half. I think Quizera was very stifled in the first half as being a truly one-footed player. They were almost daring him to cross the ball with his right foot, which he refuses to do. He did put one good cross in at in the first half to the near post, which saw Noah almost get on the end of one. It went just past the post, but he didn't see as much of the ball in the second half, Quizera, but I thought he really struggled in the first half. And it seemed like a concerted effort to try to play down the right flank to him in the first half. And then we saw a little bit more of Noah on the right in the second half, which was, I think, much more effective. I think Quizera struggled because he's predictable. And, you mentioned how last episode, how when we have an inverted winger like that, we want to see him cut in and take shots. And it's like almost like he will not do that. And he will not put in a cross with his right foot. So as long as you cover him on his shooting foot, the chances of him taking that shot are kind of slim and none. But, to your point about the team's game plan being, towards a certain player, I think the Revs game planned very well for Quizera and really gave him trouble. And I think that kind of forced Kano's hand with the switch. And I think that actually backfired on the Revs and was a positive turning point in the match for RIFC.
Listen, I said this to Matt Hands during the game. He wanted to vomit. I'm going to say this to you right now. You're not going to like it either. But Josiah Quizera, if you're watching, just go YouTube some Bukayo Saka highlights on that left wing, a right wing, and it's a man who plays his position so well. He uses his body really well. He uses both feet really well. He surprises people with his right foot. Just check it out. Just watch a little highlight. He's really good.
I'll ask you though, how'd that work out for you yesterday?
He scored.
How'd it work out in the long run?
We created more XG than them.
All right, Euro snubbing is over, but I'm totally with Jason in the chat on this one. I think Quizera has to play on the left. I think he's got to be there. Unfortunately, I think the inverted winger Quizera experiment just doesn't work and suit this team.
Okay, so to Andrew Quadras' point, Saka has worked on this. I've seen him. He used to be so left-footed. He's worked on it over time, and I actually disagree that he needs to be on the left, because I think with coaching and with practice, he genuinely could, I think, play this right wing role really well. And I think Noah on the left actually is better for us because it has him cut inside.
No, not without JJ.
I really think
not
over
without
time it can
JJ.
work.
Not without JJ.
I think it'll work, because the thing is, when you swap them, it's actually better for the cross. And I actually think that doesn't work out without JJ. So I think with JJ, you actually want them swapped. He's just so much better. So I put him in a position where he's not good. At what?
He's talking about on the left.
At left wing back.
Quizera.
Yes.
The left wing, however you want to describe it. He does not play wing back. Let's put it at that. Yeah,
I mean, sure, but I I'm saying overtime. I genuinely think if we're coaching this for the playoffs, right now we got to start thinking about the playoffs. I think if you are persistent with this and go through the growing pains, I do think the Noah on the left, Quazera on the right, JJ in the middle, overtime will work out.
So you're talking 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's
4-3-3. Any kind of it's got to be Quazera on the left.
Listen. I luckily think it would work out either way, but I think to get the most out of, especially Noah, I think it's the opposite. But I'm not like, I will not be offended if Kano just sticks with this going into next game, because number one, it worked, and number two, I think it probably maybe Quazera is more comfortable there. But again, we know he plays there for Rwanda on the right. I don't know, but we'll see.
It seems to me for us last season that when he was getting into the goals, it came from the left. It came from a late crash in on a ball through the box because we had trouble crossing with any kind of accuracy, which I think we still have that issue. But him arriving late or cleaning up some kind of rebounds because his speed is there, he's able to get down and kind of sneak into some spots.
Is this
I think, yes.
Can I give you like the hottest of hot takes?
I think he cleans up much better from the left.
I don't think he's very fast.
I do.
I think his speed is overrated because I feel like he tries to get by people a lot, and he just like.
I think he's very fast without the ball. I think he's not fast at all with the ball.
Yeah, because like last night I was like, just go by your defender. Like you're 1-on-1, just go by him, and he just like could not do it. I think this is gonna be an ongoing thing where. We have two players who are playing in a position that we haven't seen them really play. Like this formation is pretty new to us. The first time we really saw it was in Detroit, which lasted for all of 5 minutes, and then we've seen 2 games
Frank.
And we saw like Noah and Joe. We saw like a really weird front three in the game last Saturday. So I mean, more to come. A lot of this is just trying to find solutions with the players available, but I think over the long term we could see something very interesting here. We'll see.
Absolutely. So after that goal, we continued to kind of tighten the screw. There were shots after shot, counterattacking, pressing. We looked really, really good. I think it was one of our better half-hour stretches of the season. But unfortunately, that half-hour stretch came to a bit of a sad ending with this player right here.
From the get-go, Diarbian gets right onto it here, plays it for Sands down the far side. Back to Diarbian, who crosses it into the middle. Oh, it goes off the post. Rebound is in. It's Cristiano Oliveira on the follow-up. And have New England rescued their Open Cup tie here. They've taken the lead for a second time after a misreading of the cross by Jackson Lee. The Revs lead for a second time in Rhode Island. It's 2-1.
Sometimes this glorious sport is just wildly unfair. Diarbian, it took a deflection, it appeared off of the cross, it hits the back post, and Oliveira's there to...
So the commentator said it, and I saw a couple people talk about it online after on this one, that the cross took a deflection. I didn't see that. I did not see the ball change paths at all. You know why, Ryan? Who was late closing out on his man?
I actually don't know.
It was Frank. Frank did not close down. It was a lower cross. The trajectory never changed on that one. It just, went in. I actually said to you on, after seeing this one and talking at the end of the match, that there was a play probably like 3, maybe 4 trips down earlier that a cross came in on a similar line and Jackson comfortably watched it sail out of bounds. For a goal kick. And I don't know if he was kind of caught between two minds of he thought this ball was on that same line. I don't know if he lost it in the light bank. I know there were some other people from other publications talking last night on this one and really kind of gave Jackson some shtick for his performance on the night. Obviously I think this is one that he will 100% wish that he could get another crack at, because I think he'd be much more aggressive with it. And I'll say that being a backup keeper, a backup catcher, a backup goalie in hockey are probably 3 of the most hardest jobs to do in any of professional sports. Just because you're not in that game action and seeing it, as much as a starter would. So, I'm not going to throw all of the blame on Jackson that we lost this game, which I know some people will. But, I think he might have either A, kind of gotten caught in maybe thinking that ball was on the same line, or B, lost it in the lights, one of the two. I don't think it took a deflection. Because I don't think Frank was close enough. It was just typically Frank not closing down again. Like Matt says in the chat, I think Lee thought it was going wide. It was very, very similar to a ball, like I said, 3, maybe 4 trips down before there was a cross that came in. I was right on the touchline on that corner, so had a very good view at those crosses coming in. The one before it was when Rio took one off the stones, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about Rio later, but I just think he thought it was on that same line. I think he thought it was going wide, but again, kind of hung out to dry because Frank didn't close down. I won't put the rebound on any of the defenders in the box, Grant or Aime at that point, or I don't know, Aime was on at that point, but it was just such a weird like dink of a bounce, and the attackers are always going to pounce on that a lot easier than the defender or the keeper.
Yeah, I mean, I said this to a lot of people after the game, but I'm very sick of my favorite soccer teams conceding goals I've never seen before, and this definitely is in that category. I think there was like three things on this goal, and I think 2 of them are things we've seen a lot this season. Number one, we just have not done a good job getting out to crosses. I think we saw that especially in Phoenix. Like they were just whipping balls in, and I don't think we got our foot on any of them.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the exact same thing happening here, where Frank could not get tight enough to his guy. He got a free cross in, and obviously chaos happens after that. The second one, which we really haven't seen, I think Jackson just really misreads that. I mean, he was, you could see his reaction. Like he was unbelievably surprised that hit the post. So whether it was some extra spin on the goal, whether it was, I don't know, the breeze, I have no idea. But clearly that's not what Jackson expected to happen. I think he would, out of 10 out of 10 times, want that back and try to get at least a hand to it. And then 3, I don't think again, if you're saying all the things in this goal, what do you blame? This is the thing I blame the least, but I do think our defenders kind of had a slow reaction to it again. I think we get kind of planted on the spot. I really can't blame them though, because that is one of the more bizarre bounces I've seen in a very long time. At the same time, like getting tight to your man, almost like a rebound in basketball, like, boxing someone out, I do think is helpful, because at the same time, like even if like the ball bounces off the post, that's one thing, but Jackson also could just parry that back if he got a hand to it. And so you still need to stay on your man. So I do think we need to see plays out as a defense. And we've seen especially Yao be pretty culpable of this throughout the season, especially on corners, but stick with your guy and like stay on them. So again, I don't think that was the reason this all happens, but again, just like defensive, in terms of like foundations, I think there's a couple very clear things we just need to get better at and need to get better at fast, because a lot of them are just like mental or just like effort. And I think that can be solved pretty quickly.
Totally agree with you there. I think Martin brings up a great point in the chat too. We took Rio off, and that changed our defense. The goal came from his side. Rio was outstanding back there.
I would say he was like gassed. Like he was so gassed.
He was, and to be fair, like I said, he took one point blank in the stones. I heard it hit, I watched it hit, and I cringed. I felt the pain being that close to it from my vantage point. But I thought he was very good. I get bringing in Mbika and wanting to have him the new signing get into the action, and but the things did change because Rio really had things kind of locked up over there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really blame Mbika on any of this stuff. I thought he actually almost had a goal, which was kind of crazy on that set piece. But I don't know that he did anything that like I thought led to this. He definitely doesn't look like.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't look like great yet, but he also hasn't played soccer competitively since October. So I don't know if there was any expectation that he would come in and be like amazing. He's also just massive. Like that was my takeaway from the night.
He is an absolute unit. He's massive.
He was standing next to Cole Dewhurst, and he looked like so tiny compared to him.
A lot of people giving Rio a lot of love in the chat right now, and then that's really good to see. Happy to see that we signed him. I feel comfortable with him out there. I just feel like he's solid positionally. He doesn't make those big mistakes. He closes down on the attacking players, which I absolutely love to see. But we've had a lot of a lot of talk. Actually, no. Let's give the final stats on this one because I think I think
I
a
felt
lot
the
of
segue as well. I like where you're going with it.
yeah, a lot of people kind of felt we were the better team in this one, and we were, you know, 7 minutes. No, sorry, 2 minutes plus stoppage time. So it ended up being six, so about 8 minutes away from extending this tie and potentially going to penalties before we saw that goal and put in a really good performance throughout this one. Possession was pretty much the same throughout the whole match. We held 54%. We were outshot by 13 shots for RIFC to 14 for the Revs. Only 2 on target for us, 4 for the Revs. 2 big chances created by New England to 0 for RIFC. 409 passes at 84% accuracy for RIFC to 328 at 82 for New England. We committed 14 fouls to their 12. We had 5 corners to their 4. Just to see this team go up against an MLS squad, although albeit, you know, heavily rotated and put in this type of performance is very, very, you know, inspiring to see. You can only imagine, you know, how much JJ would have loved to have been on the pitch. I know it was tough seeing him out there in the boot and crutches last night, but if we have JJ, we have a healthy Yao, we have all of our players available, I very much think we can leave there and advance on to the round of 16.
For sure. I mean, it's a game that even just reading at the stats, they're so even. And I think it really was a couple weird bounces on the night that did us in. And at the end of the day, you have to be proud of the team for how they performed out there. I think the effort level, and I think that's one thing of this team that you can never question. And that's a credit to Kano and credit to the team that he's built. Like the effort is always there from this squad. And yeah, you know, they were right there. A couple of weird bounces allowed the Revs to get some goals. And yeah, just it felt very defeating because of the nature of the loss. I really think we really could have taken that one, but at the end of the day, I think it was a great showing for the team, great showing for the state of Rhode Island, and great showing for, like, you know, soccer in New England, really.
El Toxico, chapter
El
1.
Toxico.
All right, so we've had a lot of requests to talk about Amos in the chat. We're going to do it. But if you are still with us and you haven't already clicked that like button, please make sure you do so. If you're still watching and you are not subscribed, help us get to 300, just 15 away. So let's talk Amos. I know it's going to make FQB happy in the chat, as he's been told to be patient, and that is not a virtue of his. We'll start our Amos discussion by watching this tidy little clip of a nice little nutmeg by AS.
Part of the 18-yard box that skewers wide. Amos Shapiro-Thompson now in the corner, just able to get it past the aforementioned.
So Amos was absolutely electric again. Like I mentioned in the opening, absolutely happy to see him keep his starting spot. Very easily could have seen, you know, Haraval get a start, knowing the New England connection here in this one. But he played like he belonged. He was one of our highest rated players on all of the algorithm heavy websites like FotMob, SofaScore, and all of those. FotMob had him at a 7.1. He played 80 minutes, had the one shot, which was kind of a rare occurrence for him, but was a very good look. He completed 35 of 39 passes at 90%, created a chance, had 52 total touches, 2 passes into the final third, 4 out of 5 accurate long balls, 3 out of 4 tackles won, a clearance, an interception, 6 defensive actions, 4 recoveries, it's 5 duels won, only 1 duel lost, and drew a foul as well. Watching him live, I was absolutely, you know, in love with his performance. He reminded me of the cartoon Mighty Mouse. That is the official nickname I'm giving to AST going forward. I might have to make a shitty Canva Photoshop edit with his head on Mighty Mouse. So sorry, Amos. You know, if you don't appreciate that, I mean it with all due respect, all due love. Like Andrew Quadro says in the chat, he needs to partner with High Motor. He is the
Amos
definition.
needs to get on that. That's a great idea.
Quadros, call him up. You should probably arrange that, Quadros. Get a cut in there. Might as well. Totally worth it. But a player that, you know, we first really got to know and come to love at one of our live shows at Providence Brewing last year, and spent a lot of time talking to him. Not as much as FQB, but just a great kid. Martin's calling him the Tasmanian Devil. I'm sticking with Mighty Mouse, but he's an absolute joy to watch. He leaves it all on the pitch. He throws himself into tackles. He goes after everything. Just another outstanding performance for Amos.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to go to the slide?
We'll hold off on the slide for one
Okay.
sec. I'll get your thoughts on his performance, and then I want to ask you a couple follow-up questions with that.
Fair. All right. So, I mean, it's just, I wrote it in the slide and I'm just going to preview this part, but just an absolute dog again out there. I think your point about how he just leaves it all out there, it's just so clear. I definitely had concerns last Saturday when he was lining up as that like double pivot with Clay versus like Maxi being back there and him at the number 10. But the man holds his own in there. He gets into duels, he wins it. I think he has a very unique combination of like speed, balance, and like the ability to still get out of those like tight situations. He's just not afraid to throw himself in there. Like he on Saturday kind of got the shit kicked out of him by San Antonio. I think last night he definitely took a lot of kicks, a lot of knocks. I mean, it kind of took him off in like the 80th minute or so, and I think that was the right decision. But yeah, he's one of those players who you will never be able to question his like desire out there because he clearly wants to win every ball, win every game. And yeah, really, really, really proud of the impact he's made, especially in the last 2 games.
No, right on. So, we look at him getting the start, we look at him getting in there. Do you feel after these last 2 performances that, with Ibarra eventually coming back off injury, Haraval being an option off the bench, does Amos stick in the starting 11 here and kind of be the preferred third midfielder along with Clay and Maxi ahead of a healthy Ibarra and Haraval?
So I have a fun idea on this. So number one, I think you have to keep playing him if he's fit.
It's something that Kano has shown that he will do. He will play the hot hand. He will play the player in form.
Like there's to me, there's no reason to take him out. There's plenty of other players who I think you could see out there. I actually would love to see. I don't think Kano's going to do this, but I would love to see of him trying Maxi as that number 10, not number 10, Maxi as that number 9, kind of like a false 9, and then having Amos behind him with Haraval and Clay as the pivot. I think you're just getting just a lot of legs out there. You have like imagining Amos, who's been like harrying the midfield, having him actually be part of the press up top with Maxi. I think that's 2 people who no defense is going to want to have to deal with if they're playing out of the back. And then having Haraval and Clay, who can just cover all the ground in the world. You have like 2 marathon runners out there. I think it'd just be a fascinating experiment. And then you also get, I think, of all our players, you get our most dangerous one right now, actually the closest to goal, versus having him making that run from the number 10. And hey, like putting Amos up there, you're going to get someone who can do a lot with the ball. We haven't seen as much of it because he's been a little bit deeper the past 2 games, but I think he could, be dangerous up there if you put him up there. So we'll see.
I also think with that player combination and, kind of a 10 and, thinking back to the broadcast from the San Antonio game, they talked about Kano and shape shifting and all of that, you could really rotate or those players could really interchange well. Cause I think obviously you want Maxi as far forward as possible and Maxi could, be that furthest, player forward. But after a couple runs and, kind of settling into things, he could kind of slot back. Clay could take the lead getting forward for a bit. If Clay's at the edge of the box, he's going to let it rip and, really kind of peg the ball forward into their defensive box. But,
sorry.
But, I and then Amos can even get forward as well.
This is going so off the rails.
Absolutely great stuff. We love you guys in the chat. The dam is broken. All right, let's bring it back to.
I'm so sorry for the podcast listeners.
If you're listening on the audio, this is the reason we always hype joining the YouTube because things take a turn at any given moment. And as Matt Hands is saying, we've got some clips from this one, but I'm going to recenter it. Ryan's got slides.
Slides. Oh my God. All right.
I'll make Ryan talk. He's got slides.
Okay. So this is our new segment we've been doing of standout performers or like in focus, I think I've been calling it. So this can be players who went off camera fully. This is players who or performances that are interesting. It could be good, could be bad. Definitely would love your feedback on this segment over time. But I think 2 guys to call out here to start is Rio Hogan and Aldair Sanchez. Quite frankly, I think they're going under the radar here. Aldair had 6 duels won, 7 defensive actions. Rio, 7 defensive actions, 5 recoveries. They've been 2 guys who just are making it feel very comfortable out there on the wings. They're just putting in a very consistent shift, that classic 7 out of 10 performance where I don't feel any concern with them back there. They're also holding their own. They're also progressing play and really doing a great job out there. But yeah, how you feeling about Rio and Aldair?
I'm going to start with Aldair because I really think that he's becoming one of my favorite players on this team. He doesn't do anything spectacular, but he doesn't do anything really bad either.
Mm-hmm.
He just puts in a really good shift. He carries the ball really well. He always looks to beat his man. I think it's something we saw last season that we kind of struggled with was getting crosses in from those wide area, and his cross rate is not good. And I'll start with that, but he is getting there. He's building up. I love the energy he plays with. I think there was a very concerted effort to get him the ball down the left flank and look to kind of work some triangles deeper in the Revs zone yesterday. And I think he's just done an absolute great job. Martin says his crossing's next level. I don't think it's there yet.
Well, I think his crosses are good. He says nothing to aim for.
Yeah, and I think that's something that gets better with JJ in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he brings some electric pace down the left side. He's a fighter. He's a grinder. He's got a lot of energy, a really good motor. And I think as he gets more comfortable playing with these players, he's going to absolutely kill it. Like I said, he's becoming one of my favorite players. I think he's really fun to watch. He goes in at everything, and he puts in an awesome shift. Rio last night I thought was super impressive. He's just that like steady Eddie center back defender. Very little risk involved with him. He clears a lot of stuff out, gets rid of it, doesn't take any chances. And we have quite a few center backs that take some chances here and there. So it's comforting to see. He's kind of that old school throwback, no nonsense center back.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's fun about a season is like these were players who Rio wasn't even on the roster to start the season. Was on a 25-day contract until a couple days ago. We didn't even know if he was staying. And now he's one of those guys who, like, I can't take him out of the 11. Like, even if everyone was healthy, I'm putting him at that right center back spot or a right fullback center back spot. And then Aldair, we thought he was just kind of really signed as depth for Quizera to when he's on international duty, he can sub in. But I think his versatility that he actually can play that pure left fullback role versus that left wing back role has been really helpful in this team transitioning to this potentially new format. And another guy who, you're talking about 2 first names on the team sheet right now for me. So I think they're having both a very consistent season. I think Aldair, we saw some like really, really big highs a little bit earlier. He had the game, I think, against Phoenix where he was just like unbelievable. But again, like worst case, they're both putting in that classic like 7 out of 10 performance. And I think that's all you can really ask for from your fullbacks, especially against some pretty tough assignments that they had last night.
No, totally. Both guys just kind of rising to the occasion. A lot of people saying Rio came in and really earned the contract, and Aldair has just been a real spark, a real spark plug into this team.
Yep. Yeah, so next up, Matt did preview this earlier, but I know some people had some concerns about Noah offensively. Again, he got the assist. Again, I think he grew into the game on that end of the pitch. But one thing about Noah is he's versatile, but he's also someone who I think always you can't really fault his effort on the pitch. And his defense last night was really important for this team. He had 1 block, 5 clearances, 8 defensive actions, 4 recoveries, 3 duels won. So he was really helping out. And I think it's one of the reasons why the Revs weren't particularly dangerous all night. Again, 2 kind of weird broken play bounces is how they won this game. And I think without Noah's defense, it could have been potentially worse there. So, maybe a bit of an underappreciated side of his game. I know we hear either players or Kano talk about it a lot, but yeah, Matt, what'd you make of Noah's defense last night?
We talked earlier in this one about game planning for RIFC players, and I think Noah's a very game plan proof type of player because when he's playing free like this and he's roaming and he's picking up the ball in different locations, it's really tough to kind of assess what he'll do because he's not just the typical winger or false 9 or 10 that you pass him the ball and then he goes. It's him winning a tackle and turning and advancing and then putting in a good ball to another attacking player, what makes him really special and really dangerous, especially in this RIFC team. So I think Noah put in his best performance of the season last night. And then, he got into the goal contributions, and hopefully that's a kind of a spark for him, and we see it continue as we are in desperate need of points going forward in the league.
For sure. I have to also shout out before we go to the next slide. Our guy Matt is the one who took all these pictures again, and just
thanks,
excellent.
buddy.
This is like my favorite one of the night, probably, for a lot of
Good
reasons.
stuff. I know there was a lot of Noah stuff that Ryan would be happy with, and I know this would be particularly favorite because you can see Maxi's face in the background too.
That's the 1-2 punch we're looking for here.
There you go. So last up on our slide deck. Oh, is that it?
Should be one more. Oh, I think I moved it first. I thought we might transition. So if you go back to the first one at this point.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go. So first one, we already touched on this, but AST continuing as a starter. I think it's a really interesting talking point on this one, which we just covered. But again, absolute dog. 5 duels won, 6 defensive actions. Oh, spelled actions wrong. 4 recoveries, 90% passing accuracy, 1 chance created. One thing I thought was really interesting when looking at the stats from this game, that if you actually compare AST's Amos's stat line versus Clay's, they're actually like very close. Like they're almost identical. And I think that's such a compliment to Amos, like what he's doing. The one thing that Clay does that I think is like he has a couple like really just key skills that are just irreplaceable on this team. He also progresses the ball really well. But I think Amos is putting in an absolute shift out there, and more to come from him. Hopefully we see him in this 11 on Saturday, barring any fitness concerns at this point.
Absolutely. Just like you said, absolute dog, goes into everything. Would like to see him show a little bit more for the ball when one of our players, wins it and able to kind of like, Maxi always recycles back to Clay just to be under the recycle valve. Ball can get back out to him and then ping it forward again. But as far as what he's doing, tracking back, what he's doing, getting into tight spaces, just absolutely, happy with the way he's playing, happy for him, happy for the whole turnaround after the injury, and think he can really be a big asset for this team this season.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen him in some like cameo appearances. Now we've seen him in 2 starts, and you have to hope that over time, like he might grow into it a bit more, and we might see a lot more shots from him. He does have a lot of offense in him, and I think there's more to come with him, especially in this new role, and him maybe playing more of that box to box player that we do see Clay doing sometimes. We always talk about Clay's bangers, and I'm not going to sit here and say Amos can rip one from 45 yards out like Clay, but I do think he has a lot in there that we could see some extra threat from him coming soon.
Right on. So let's shift gears a little bit as we kind of look to wrap this one up. We'll start out with the good, bad, and the ugly, or good, better, best. We left it up to you for this one. We saw some people actually write in with 2 as well. So we'll start with the Defiant 1636 Discord. And Taris had good, thought we looked good against good competition. Better, we scored. Best, the crowd was alive. It was a great atmosphere throughout. Sarah actually did both good, better, best, and good, bad, and the ugly. Her good her good was AST is fast as fuck, boy. Her bad was hesitation in the final third, and ugly JJ in a boot and crutches. That was tough to see. That was makes you think it might be on the longer end of the calf strain spectrum. Her good was 9,500 attendance on a school night. I know Zach's paying the price today for it. He had a school field trip too, but he was conked out on the couch for quite some time. Woke up in a puddle of drool. Her better was Clay and AST in the midfield, and her best was Maxi first goal in the bank. Mike M had good Pittsburgh with the cup set, bad Detroit getting waxed. I don't think that's bad. I hate Detroit. I hate the Northern Guard. I hate what they did to Maxi. I'd put that as best, but I know Mike went good, bad, and ugly. And his ugly was Tampa getting spanked. And I get it. He went with a fully U.S. Open Cup, kind of take on that one.
I just imagine him wearing the USL hat like Rob Lowe with the NFL hat there. Yeah.
Right. Leo had good Noah's defensive effort showing through better than I can recall ever seeing before. Bad inability to break down the Revs perimeter defense, especially Sands. Ugly combination of poor defensive decisions and luck for both Revs goal. From Twitter, we had Hooded Bastard at Rip Feather 5 Hood. Quite a name and username there. Wrote in, Tommy Quinlan was electric on the radio call, and he added 2 lightning bolt emojis on that. So big shout out and love to our friend TQ. I know he would have loved to see an RIFC win over the Revs. We'll switch gears to RIFC in 3. Pawtucket J, who's been in the chat all night, had a bunch of them here, so buckle up, stay tuned. Bad smoke pop, got smoked out, couldn't see shit, nonstop energy, Defiance went hard. I know a smoke flare went off underneath the tifo that I believe got in his eyes and, and very much messed with him there. Sarah had RFC in 3, shoot the ball, and our guy Patrick McKenna followed up with what Sarah said. So totally agree. You know, I think Wazera could be one of the ones to yell at that one, because if he's cutting in, you got to shoot. And then Mike M had hit the target. We had all those shots, but very, very few on target. Leo added luck, stomps, dreams. And then from Twitter, FQB had better team loss. From Instagram, WTM 1970, which I believe is Terrace, had not good enough. And I think we almost were. We were close to it. On Facebook, we had Santiago Restrepo with 2 different takes. Team played hard, and Lee just froze. And then Joseph Golomboski added fun game, and they put up a fight. So thank you to everyone who wrote in. We appreciate it. If you have not seen those, follow us at Tide Talk RI on all of the social media platforms. We post post-match content, looking for your comments, your takes to get into the episode. But overall, a pretty good night. A pretty good fight. Unfortunately, the numbers went our way for the most part, but the result did not.
I feel like we need to get Jason like an exclusive interview of what happened. I'm very intrigued. He keeps like kind of talking about it.
Putting it lightly, my friends, you know. So we apologize, Jason. Hopefully you're good to go and fully fit for Saturday. And we can really up the tide at Tidewater and hopefully get our first 3 points as we take on Monterey Bay, currently sitting second in the West. Last time out was a 1-1 draw versus Miami FC. They lost 1-0 at New Mexico. A 0-0 draw versus Lexington, a 2-1 win at home versus Colorado, and a 0-0 draw in Detroit. How do you feel about this matchup and this team, Ryan?
Going to be real honest with everybody, I have not looked into them at all. Obviously they're having a good season. They're looking pretty dangerous, but I think we're starting to get some of our mojo back, and I do think this weekend is going to be the first W in team history at Centerville Bank Stadium. So more to come. Hopefully we'll do something. I would say definitely check out tidetalkri.com. I would really want to shout out Matt Hands, has this great new Riptide report after games. He's putting it out like literally the night after games. I sometimes see him starting to write it in the stands behind me.
Wild.
The dedication is unbelievable, but super quick like bullets, and I think he just nails it every time. But also Matt will be back tomorrow with his like pre-match lookout, which is always a must read for us. And excited to see this game. I mean, it's crazy that we're going to go to Tidewater 3 times in basically a week. But it's been fun. And honestly, it's a great way to kind of break in the new stadium and kind of figure everything out.
Absolutely. While I have you on here, Ryan, what's your score prediction for this one?
Ah, shit. Let's go 3-2. Let's have a party.
Ooh, all right. So I'm seeing Monterey Bay only scored 2 goals once in their last 5 games. They've got a couple of 0-0 shutouts and a 1-goal game as well. So I'm going to go 2-1 RFC with the first win in the bank.
Wait, can I change?
No.
You just educated me a lot.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
2-0 RFC.
2-0? All right. I think something clicks. I think Maxi stays hot. Maybe a brace from Maxi, maybe one from him, one from somebody else. But I think it's 2-1 RFC because I don't think we fully clean up that defense that we need to. But I think it's a better attacking effort going forward. So, like Ryan said, make sure you're following our website, subscribe to all those blogs. Follow us on all of our socials as we pump it out and get it to you as fast as possible. So hopefully we see 3 points at Tidewater on Saturday, and we can move on from there and keep accumulating those points in the league. We maybe can look at, this Revs match as a big turning point in the season, as we were able to look at Memphis last year. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what you should be hoping for too. But that'll wrap things up for this one. Remember, Tide Talk is more than just a podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for daily social media content. Click that link in this episode description. Hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I've been your host, Matt, for my good friend Ryan. Thanks again for joining. We'll see you next time. And as always, up the tide.
Up the tide.